Hello, everybody, and I wanted to cover a little bit about last night's live stream with Hugo Drax. Hugo is an industry leader and veteran who has covered both the photo booth industry as well as the DJ industry, and he's been in the industries for such a long time. We had to have him on the show. He is a pillar and has so much knowledge that we wanted to extract out of him for the benefit of you guys and for us as well. So David and I had the opportunity to speak with him, and Hugo is actually the leader for the Photo Booth Association. He is also very well invested and was the starting point for the American Disc Jockey Association. And one of the benefits of both of these associations is the fact that you can also get insurance at a reasonable rate and reputable insurance. So the first part of the show, we had some technical difficulties with this audio. So I thought maybe we would cut this up a little bit to make it better for the viewers to watch the episode. The first part that was missed due to the audio issues was actually about having a business plan. But that makes sense. Every business should have a business plan. But more importantly, as part of that business plan was the insurance portion, which is something that every photo booth operator should have. We're going to find out why right now.
You had wanted originally to talk about insurance, and we've been
Sorry about
yammering
that.
about tons of things.
Yeah. Sorry, we can
No,
talk
it's
about
no
all
nothing to
kinds of
be
stuff.
sorry about.
And we got the sound worked out. So the really important stuff that we want to hit with insurance, we got the internet going. So let's hit it. So insurance. Should every photo boother have insurance?
Absolutely. They're at the price point of liability insurance. You're stupid. You are an idiot if you don't have it.
Mhm.
Because if something happens, let me just tell you how it works. Somebody gets hurt, everybody gets sued. It doesn't matter about if you're personally liable, you're going to get sued.
Got a
And
blanket.
an attorney's going to call you and say, yeah, he's going to call you and say, well, it's too bad so and so got hurt, but we're litigating everybody, but I know you don't think you were involved, but you kind of were. But if you slip us 10 grand, we'll let you out. They'll let you out of the lawsuit for $10,000, and you go say, screw that. Then you go and investigate what it costs you for a liability lawyer, and you go, this is going to cost me a lot of money. The reality is the Photo Booth Association provides $1 million liability for $100. $100. And if somebody calls you with that, you don't even talk to them. You just say, let me give you the claims adjuster's number, and they go deal with it. You don't have anything. Because let me tell you how this works. If you say, I'm sorry they got hurt, you are somewhat assenting to liability.
That you knew
You
this
know that?
happened. Yeah.
Yeah. The reality is, and it's part of what I tell boothers. Don't have tripod stands that people can trip over.
Mm-hmm.
Instead, spend money for a solid pole and a weighted base plate
Yes.
that your light can be on or whatever you need, so that you're not introducing a trip and fall hazard into a kind of moderately dark environment. That's a simple thing you can do to reduce your risk. The other thing, having liability insurance, you want insurance for the full freaking year. You don't want this day of garbage. They'll charge you 50 to 75 bucks. And guess what? That's 75% of what it costs to be insured for an entire year.
Yeah.
An entire year.
Yeah, we see
And
that
so if you
question a
have
lot.
two parties, if you have two events with day of policies, you've already burned more money. Now, one of the things a lot of people don't know is there's been a lot of insurance companies jumping into the photo booth and DJ insurance business.
Yes.
What you don't know is there's a term called mitted. And what that means is if a company is fully mitted, it means that the carrier has $1 of premium in reserve for every dollar of premium they take in. What that means is they've got working capital. if somebody gets hurt, they have capital. They're fully admitted. They're able to take care of those expenditures. And that's an important thing. You want someone, our insurance, we've been in the business almost 30 years with liability insurance for photographers and photo booths. We aren't going anywhere.
Yeah.
We're the best policy. We're the least expensive policy. We're the most durable policy. We're insured by Fireman's Fund, which is owned by the Alias Group, which is one of the 3 largest carriers on the planet. All of our, ADJ members save $50 when they buy liability insurance, so they get it for $99 versus $150. So that's a great bargain for being a member of the Photo Booth Association.
Yep. Here's
now,
the website
for
right
our
here.
people that are DJ, yep, for all of our DJs, if they're the DJ at the party and they're also providing photo booth, their photo booth insurance is rolled into their DJ coverage. They only need separate photo booth coverage if they're sending a booth out separate to another event. And so the thing that you want to have as a photo boother is liability insurance should be right in there. Now you can have property insurance, and property insurance is against loss, theft, or damage, and that I put that as an arbitrary policy that you can choose to buy. If you're running a roamer booth and it's always in your hand, there's very little risk of damage or loss. Now, maybe someone could steal it from you because you set it down and go to the bathroom. But
they actually have.
I love. Yeah, I love Apple though. You see, because they have these cool little things called AirTags.
Yes.
You take your iPad and you put an AirTag in it, and guess what? Somebody walks away with your iPad, you know where it is.
That's right.
And they'll be damn surprised when you show up at their door tomorrow with, "I'd like my photo booth back." And this police officer is going to admonish you to do that because you see right here, it's located here. It's $29 to put an AirPad in your photo booth.
Yeah.
Now with a fixed booth with a DSLR, that's less of a problem. Now, one thing that is a problem with insurance, and that's 360 booths.
Yes.
And the reason that's a problem is because 360 booths represent the biggest liability risk to you ever. And if you don't have an aggressive plan, they are not worth the money, in my opinion. Or you need, like if you have a 360 booth like that has all the cameras on a big arc, that's a different story. But if you've got one of these relatively inexpensive booths, you step on a platform and the camera goes wanging around, think about what happens if somebody isn't paying attention and they step in to that circle where that camera's going. They're going to get whacked in the face.
Yep.
And you will have a big lawsuit. There won't be any ifs, there won't be any buts, and you will be liable. And your insurance will be canceled after that loss because that loss will be huge. And so that's something that you need to do. You can have a platform where the platform rotates. Again, there's a little bit of a trip and fall from them getting off the platform if it rotates.
Yeah.
They might become a little dizzy because they've been drinking. Again, that's a problem. And I'm not trying to be, Debbie Downer and take the fun out of the party, but you need very, very specialized insurance for that kind of booth.
Yes,
and that's going to be with Lloyd's of London or Scottsdale Insurance, but their insurance isn't going to be $100. It's going to be a percentage of your gross revenue.
So let's talk about that.
Go ahead, Art.
Yeah, so 360s, right? So
sure.
The first point is whether you have one event a year, whether you have 2 events a year, you should have insurance because you don't want to get sued. But now 360s is something new that Dave, you have one. Hugo, I don't know if you have one. I won't get one because I don't want the
No,
liability of one. Because of the things that you said about people getting whacked in the face or falling off, it's a lawsuit. In my mind, waiting to happen. Have you heard of any stories where that has happened, where someone has sued a 360
absolutely.
winner?
Oh, absolutely. It's the issue of it's the thing you can't really talk about because of you know confidentiality with the person that was insured and
Yeah,
confidentiality with you know these got it's like in all of these event related things, sparklers. Everybody tries to say they're safe
fire
and yada
starts.
yada, and yet I know of a girl that at her quinceanera, her nice, lovely, beautiful quinceanera dress went up in flames from a cold spark device that she was allowed to get too close to. She's got second, third degree burns all over the lower half of her body. That's going to be $1 million. I mean, I can just tell you that's going to be,
Yeah,
she'll be disfigured
minimum.
for life, minimum.
So
Now,
is
you
there
take
different?
somebody,
Are there
well,
different
you take somebody
policies?
steps,
Yeah, go ahead.
well, there are different policies. You can get specialty insurance from Lloyd's of London and Scottsdale Insurance, and they're typically companies that they work in the uh, production aspect of event production, i.e., they insure movie sets.
Right.
But like I say, you take a person that's not paying attention and they walk and they get whacked. If they get whacked in the back of the head, you're going to be consider yourself lucky. But if it, you know,
If it's an eye
happens
out.
to be, it turns, it's flying around. It pops them in the face, an eye out. That's hundreds of thousands of dollars. All these kind of cool things get taken away from us because of stupid people.
Mm-hmm.
You see, like if you have a 360 booth, well, I'd have a red velvet rope all the way around it, and there's only one way in and one way out, and I let you in and I let you out, and then that's maybe something that you could say, I might consent to the risk and have the big insurance policy. And the same, is true with the platform. I would have only one way to get off of it.
Yeah.
That would be steps at one specific spot. Um, it's just things that you got to do. Um, Heck, I used to use pyrotechnics back in the day.
Oh my gosh.
A thing called gerbs. That's what cold sparks are meant to look like.
Mm-hmm.
Is a gerb. Well, but that was okay because I had them located in certain places. I had the fire department come out with a fire marshal, inspect how we were going to do, and I made sure that I had additional friends and staff to be there to make sure that no one could get around them anywhere. And I did the uncool thing. I had tarps spread out on the dance floor so I don't burn the dance floor, so I don't burn the carpet.
Right.
Why? Because that's what you do. And then back then we were just fogging the floor with chilled foggers, which didn't always work that great. But
Yeah.
you have to do the uncool thing, which is you got to set this stuff up at some point in the party for that one magic thing of dancing in the clouds with sparklers. And yeah, I paid for fire marshals because that's the right thing to do. Why? Because if I'm lighting off any kind of thing, I'm doing anything involving particulate in the air, I'm going to have a fire marshal so the fire alarm in the room is turned off, so there's no big deal, and we're playing safe and sane. That the gerbs are operated in this, he's inspected how I'm going to do it, and they're operated in a safe and sane way that you get what you want. But, the client paid more for that because they said they wanted it. Now, I didn't put it as a line item. I just said, okay, here's your price.
Right.
Event's $10,000. Why is it so expensive? I said, a lot of production elements you want. You want all of these things.
Mm-hmm.
These things have costs associated, and I have to absorb those to keep the party completely safe.
Right.
You know, like, I mean, it comes down to having defined exits that, you know, I've got lights over by that exit, that exit's well lit. So anything happens, everybody knows how to get out of the room.
Yeah.
So coming back to the 360s, I'm not down on 360s per se. I'm down on 360s because the majority of people that buy them are not interested in being safe. They're not interested in taking the adequate precautions. That's why our insurance doesn't cover them. Some others will cover them, but you know, when the loss comes, then the fishy, you know, waving around comes to play about whether you're really covered or if you're not.
Right.
And you know, to me, people are paying for a great entertainment experience. Now, what is that 360 booth going to add to the entertainment experience that translates into big revenue for me?
Mhm.
Because if I'm doing it right, I got all these other expenses that I need to have factored into that event. How does that make me more money? Can I, if I spend, you know, what's a 360 photo booth run for now? Like 7, 8 grand?
No, you can get them as low as
Yeah.
like $1,500 now. So the price point,
$1,500.
yeah,
So these are the ones that they're just putting a webcam on, right?
they're using an iPhone for them.
Yeah.
Sure.
You know,
I mean, and iPhones have good photography, but so $1,500. That's about as cheap as a regular photo booth.
yep.
You know, because you can get a regular booth for 15 to 2,000 bucks. You know, I'm more of the get a high quality piece of equipment because it will last you longer.
Mhm.
And I would probably say the same if I was getting a 360 booth. I don't think I would want something that had an iPhone clamped on it. Only reason is it's not going around at some super slow speed. At least the ones I've seen, they are flying around that circle fairly quickly because they want to cycle as many people as they can. Well,
Right.
you know, again, those to me, these things all come about with risk. That was one of the reasons I was concerned when they used to have DLSRs that they were just clamping on instead of screwing on with, you know, so that the camera was really firmly fixed. But again, I would tell people risk versus reward.
So, for those that watch this, now we've talked about now, photo booth insurance. So if I get photo booth insurance and I have a 360 and something happens to 360, I'm technically not covered under photo booth insurance if I.
That's correct. That is correct. And in fact, if they typically our carrier, they don't just insure you willy nilly. They will go to your website. They will see how you're marketing, and if they see a 360 booth, even if they sign you today, they will cancel you tomorrow
Uh-huh.
or by Thursday or Friday. The majority of carriers don't want the majority of legitimate carriers don't want to cover 360 booths because of the risk. Some of the cheaper carriers that are here today, gone tomorrow, they might, because in the end, they'll just find in the paperwork way down in the fine print, oh, well, that's not really covered. And I would encourage you, if you buy a 360 booth and you're buying insurance,
Yeah.
I would call the broker that's selling it to you,
Okay.
and I would have them say in writing that I am covered. You know,
Yeah.
because again, it doesn't hurt to ask questions. An ounce of prevention is a pound of cure.
Yep.
And if you get the broker to write that down on
Documentation.
paper to email you,
Yep.
exactly. And I would get the broker, not just some Sally that's working the phones and taking insurance orders.
Okay. So it's got to be the
I'd say
broker.
I'd like to talk to the broker.
Gotcha.
Well, yeah, because the broker is ultimately the one that underwrites. Well, the insurance carrier underwrites the policy, but the broker is typically the one that created the policy.
Right. Okay. Let me see. I've got another question here. Venues. So, why do venues
Yes,
have you add their venue to your insurance?
because most people in this business are stupid. They do stupid things,
I
and the
like.
venue doesn't want to get sued. Look, here's the deal: the venue's going to get sued no matter what.
Yeah.
But what they want is they go, well, here's Dave over here with his 360 booth, and he's got nothing blocking people from walking into it. You know, he's got tripod lights up here. He's got nothing blocking that. When I was a DJ and used tripods,
Uh-huh.
I had silk trees. Why? Because I I put them there to create the argument that I have created something the person has to see. There's not a black tripod leg sticking out that they're going to trip on. There's this big thing of green foliage
Yeah.
that, you know, and people said, well, that's stupid. You're paying money for that. I go, yeah, I pay for that. Why? Because I don't want to deal with trip and fall hazards,
Okay.
you know, because sometimes, and then at some point I said, okay, I won't do that. But my tripods will now be in the corners, and I will augment through audio sophistry to make that okay that they're in the corners where nobody can trip and fall over them. That's, you know, that's just what you do if you're smart. Same with, like, I used to use trussing. Well, trussing was always lit up. And if I had any chance to put some kind of foliage or decor around it, it was worthwhile because, you know, again, it's not somebody can run into it. And I used very heavy base plate. So, okay, I've got a 90-pound base plate. It's going to take a lot for somebody that hits it to knock that truss over. I left the whole horizontal trussing and just used totems. Why? Because if they knock this totem over, I've only got a limited sphere of influence. If they can hit one totem and knock it over that has a 20-foot crossbar on it, they can now take down that, which expands the risk of injury to a much greater sphere. And let me tell you, a piece of trussing that falls at 32 feet per second square. People that don't know what's happening are going to get whacked.
Yeah.
And so you just don't do this. And so why does the venue want that? They want that protection. The same, they require the same for DJs. And I tell people, well, if DJs didn't do stupid things like put their tripods on the corners of the dance floor where people come off and may not be paying attention,
Well, I guess
you
I'm wondering.
create your own risks.
Well, what I want to try to understand is the venue already has insurance, and if you already have insurance and proof of insurance, what does adding their name to your insurance do for the whole situation? That's what I'm trying to understand.
That means that, well, okay, let's say you have a photo booth and it sits on a stick and it's got tripod legs. Somebody trips over and, like, she's a stenographer. She trips over, face plants into the floor, shatters her wrist.
Yeah.
She's got a $250,000 lawsuit. She sues the venue as well as you,
Yep.
but now the venue has a quasi co-liability because of that.
Uh-huh.
Well, what the venue is asking with an additional insured certificate is they're saying, we want to be on your policy for this window of time, so we are protected for any losses you create. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So if you cause someone to be injured, they don't have a financial liability because of your stupidity.
Right.
And so that's what they want. And now the thing is, there are some venues that get pretty egregious in this. they want to be listed as primary, which I tell people, screw that. You tell them no. You tell the client I'm not going to be there.
Yeah.
Because primary, when they want to be listed on your policy as primary, that means you have now assumed primary insurance for the venue. So your
Wow.
scope of liability has expanded out to all kinds of things.
So
Things their
don't agree
kitchen may
to it.
do,
So don't.
things that other vendors may do, never. The other thing you want to do is they want to have that you can't subrogate. Well, subrogate means somebody gets hurt and it's their fault and you get sued. Your insurance wants to subrogate. And what subrogate means is to say Art or Dave is not responsible. The venue's responsible because it was their fault. It was their employee. It was their stuff that caused the injury. And so subrogation means transferring your liability because they're going to sue you, transferring your liability legally to the venue, and that will hold up in court. And that's why you want the right of subrogation, because they can't you don't want them to subrogate to you, but you want them to subrogate. And I've asked venues for proof, to put on their policy.
So you've asked for venues for proof of insurance?
Of course.
Okay.
It's especially, I'm a little more relaxed when it's Hilton or Marriott.
Yeah.
Major properties, because they're pretty much under a big corporate umbrella. But you got Bob's wedding venue.
Yeah.
You don't know if he's got insurance or not.
Yeah, that's true.
Some
places shut down overnight.
And comes back. You want your liability insurance because let's say you damage his floor, his dance floor. This happened a lot with people with low-lying fog. The dancing on the clouds thing. Well, the person didn't put anything down there, so water spilled out because somebody hit it, and so the floor gets damaged because it's wet for 2 or 3 hours. So that's a problem. Or you're loading out, and if you have people that work for you and they're loading out and they're not careful, they scratch the wall going down the hallway because they're just dragging the rock and roller and not paying attention. They're on their phone. You have a liability to that. Now, so asking the venue for a copy of their proof of insurance protects you. What happens if there's some kind of problem and your stuff gets burned up because the building catches fire and there's not time to take your gear out, you're leaving. Now you would have gear insurance potentially to cover that loss, theft, or damage, but ultimately you shouldn't have to because it's their fault. It's their responsibility. So that makes sense. And if they're a legit,
yeah, I was going to say, what happens is, so a situation, again, just going back to the venue has insurance, I've got insurance. Have you ever actually asked a venue for their insurance policy and they push back and say, no, we're not going to give you proof?
Yeah, they have. And I say, well, you ask me for the proof of insurance as a contractor coming onto your facility. I just say, here's a list of damages that I could absorb from being in your facility, particularly if they have on-site food facilities. I could get food poisoning from the food at your facility if I'm being fed, which I don't ever do, but
I eat. I'm a beast.
Good for you. But I don't, because I'm just busy working. But the other side of it is, what happens if your equipment is damaged because you're going out and, hey, we all know that 50% of the time our way out of the building is through the kitchen. What happens if something falls over?
Yeah.
Damages your equipment. What happens if your way out of the building doesn't give you a way to get out of the building with your equipment in a safe fashion? What if a guest at the party causes damages, likely you're not going to be able to sue the guest. The venue somewhat takes on that burden, you know. And so I tell them, you want my proof of insurance? Here it is. I'm happy to show you I have it, and I'll give you a copy that I have insurance. The proof of insurance, no big deal. I'll give that to anybody. I don't really care.
Yeah.
But when they want to be on my insurance, then that's the point where I want to see, and I've told them I want to be named on their policy.
Do you have
And
actually
with bigger
asked?
companies, Marriott, yes, Marriott and Hilton, there's been pushback, and I've gone up to their corporate lawyers and said, look, we're both working this event together. Yeah, I know you think you have a bigger liability because you've got a $50 million venue, but this is my life and my business. You know, I don't know if you've managed, if what happens if your people lock the doors because it's a private party and you're trying to control egress and ingress to the event. And there's a fire, and all of a sudden I see an exit sign, and I go there and I can't get out. And there's now burning crap falling from the ceiling, and I got to go 100 feet or 200 feet to find another exit. It's filling up with smoke. I could suffer respiratory damage. I said, there's all kinds of things that can happen as a result of your property. I can be coming out through the front door, and one of your valets doesn't pay attention and hits me with the client's car.
So I'm glad you said that. I'm glad, because I did ask that question on a group, and someone said, absolutely not. Don't. There's no reason to ask a venue to put you on their policy that it won't do anything. So your answer
They're full of crap.
Okay, so your answer is
they're full
yes,
of crap.
Absolutely ask them to put you on their policy as well.
If you know, yeah, I mean, here's the reason. If they're asking you and they're wanting tons of things, they're not just wanting, you know, their property and a date and time, whatever. But if they're pushing back and they, you know, you a simple additional insured where there it says the South Point Hotel and Casino, February 25th from 6 to 9 p.m. I'm probably not going to push back on that.
Yeah.
And get all think about it. But if they say they want all kinds of things covered, because I'm sure you guys have seen some additional insured certificate requests,
yeah,
they get quite involved. They're not just simple. They got all this other stuff. Well, that other stuff comes from corporate attorneys. And that means they're trying their best to put you in a box.
Okay.
And those are the ones I'm going to push back on, because I'm not going to get put in a box and be in a situation where my insurance is blown and I don't have insurance anymore because I managed, somehow it was managed to get into a much bigger loss. I do it as a point of principle. If somebody says, oh, they're not going to do anything, they will if you ask them appropriately and professionally.
Mm-hmm.
They have no reason not to, because it's reciprocity. You're asking me for something, I would like similar reciprocity from you. It just makes sense,
Yeah.
And if they ask me, I also say, are you asking every other contractor on site for similar reciprocity?
Mm-hmm.
Because, hey, I'm not real thrilled with the idea of you have a bar service company in there that isn't providing proof of insurance.
Yep.
Because if, someone gets overserved and they get hurt, everybody gets sued. Now, I'm not going to go ask the bar company for a proof of insurance, but it's about understanding the inherent risks involved in being in that room. Let's say this room has got big, massive chandeliers that the decor company has put up. Well, I'm kind of a rigging guy. I'm going to go, what the hell is holding that chandelier from crashing down?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, well they got insurance, but what stops that from just swinging loose like a cannonball or wrecking ball and go through the dance floor?
Or if it swings and it
Um,
falls, hits your photo booth, and then your photo booth falls on somebody. Now
yep.
it's like, well, whose fault was it? And that's where the blanket lawsuit happens, right?
Well, right. That kind of becomes the whole car thing. Like you get rear-ended, or you rear-end somebody because you got rear-ended, and there's that liability spread. I just advise people, look, it is better to be overly cautious than it is to be cavalier and under cautious.
Hmm.
And if the venue, looked like a small venue, why wouldn't you ask them for proof of insurance? Maybe you don't have to go as far as asking to be added to their insurance,
Hmm.
but to know they are properly insured.
Right.
I don't
That's
see
great.
anything wrong with having that information because
Okay.
they want to know that you are. And so if they want to know that you are, I think that reciprocity with them is certainly appropriate.
Yeah. So at least, so what you
And
say,
it's something.
at least, at least test it. Because
What's
I know I'm
that?
going to get pushback from some places like, well, I'm not giving you my insurance. You're just some little guy, some little small company. We're not giving it to you. Sorry. Our lawyers say we're not giving it to you. What do you say in that situation?
Yeah,
Okay.
but I say, how does giving me a copy of a certificate of insurance? I can't sue you from that certificate of insurance.
Hmm.
It only tells me that you're insured. There's no liability to any venue giving you a COI. None. Any more than there is for us to give
Okay.
a venue a COI.
Right.
Where it gets extensible is when they're added to the policy, or if I was asking them to be added to their policy, that can be an extensible addition that can raise concerns. But simply asking for a COI is the smart thing to do because it tells you the venue, that small little wedding venue, is covered.
Right. Oh, that's
I
great.
mean, say like if I'm at a small venue and the client wants music outdoors till 10 o'clock, I'm going to find out what the sound ordinance is in that area. Why? Because that, if as a DJ, that's going to impact me and impact my ability to deliver to the client.
Right.
As a photo booth, not as much, but in the same token, if you blow the photo booth aspect of the party up, awesome, and everybody's outside, and now there's 400 or 500 guests mingling and talking and drinking outside, that becomes a problem that the guests need to go back inside the venue. Not necessarily a problem as much for you as a photo boother, but the venue may say, hey, can you shut the photo booth down so people will go back inside?
Hmm. Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I look at insurance as the way you should think and act about insurance is the way you would think and act if you had none. Because if you have your car and you're taking parts of your photo booth out, would you leave your trunk of your SUV open
Nope.
while you're going to and from a venue that's like 50 yards away? Would you just leave it open,
Uh-uh.
knowing that any schmo can come along and, oh, cool,
I,
photo booth, out we
I've had
go.
stuff stolen before. It's happened when I was in a band, playing upstairs in this room. Put my bass guitar on the side of the wall real quick. Run up, grab a bag, came back down, gone. My musical instrument was stolen within a matter of seconds.
And that's the thing I would tell any boother or DJ, have an alarm system on your vehicle that when, you take a load of stuff out.
Hmm.
Yeah, it extends the time I get out of the building. Oh, well, I close it, I lock it, and arm the alarm on my Suburban. Or if when I use a trailer, I have a trailer alarm and I arm that alarm. Yeah, it's a pain in the butt. I got to unlock it and roll it up and turn the alarm off, all that other crap. But one thing I know, my stuff goes home with me, not with someone else.
Yeah.
And think about everything you do as you put your photo booth in a venue about is there anything I'm doing here that is extending my liability, that's creating a trip and fall risk, or creating something that could become a problem to come back on me? Think like you don't have insurance.
Right.
Think like you are personally going to get sued. And you will get sued, because when people get hurt, everybody that's getting a paycheck out of that place is getting invited to the party. That is how it is. It's dialing for dollars. That's what they're doing.
Yeah, that's true.
And so that's where you want to be. You want to say, I've done everything safe. You know, I don't use props that little kids can stick in their mouth or stick down their throat. You know, I don't use a prop with a stick where some kid can go run up to show his mother, trip and fall, and it pokes him in the heart, or pokes him somewhere else in the face or the body. It was, to me, the greatest thing was watching Curator and other companies come up with virtual props, because I got rid of all of them. Just did it, because the quality of the virtual props is more than sufficient for the needs that I present. And I tell the client that's what we use. Yep. Because it limits liability of people getting jabbed with sticks. It limits liability of people getting diseases like COVID because they handled a stick that somebody that had COVID and sneezed in their hand. I just say I take all of those risks out so that you, as the host, doesn't have to deal with hearing about your friends have COVID and they're in the hospital and their grandma's, on life support. Take everything out that limits the effectiveness to be safe. Now, if you want to do props, then you control those props. You don't let people walk off with them, maybe. But that's how I would look at it. Act as if you have no insurance, and then you will always be as safe as possible. And your insurance will probably never have to be used, and that will always be a good thing.
Yeah. And that, of course, the cost of insurance is always part of your business plan, right? So
sure, but it's cheap. If you're a member of the Photo Booth Association, you can buy $1 million liability policy for $99.
Where can I do that?
That's
I'm going to show ridiculous. The website here. That's me. Hi, that's me.
Sure.
Here. Where on the site can people go to buy insurance?
Information for photo boothers. You can get information for that.
Not that one. Hold on.
What's not found? That's weird. We've been doing a bunch of work on the server, but you would be able to click information for photo booth.
Oh, the insurance.
And it should pull up. Right. Click that link.
Oh, you've been doing some stuff on the site. Okay.
Well, we have, and it's running a little slow right now, but you go to, there it is.
Yep.
And then you'll see if you scroll down, there'll be a link for right there at almost the bottom of the screen, Pro Photographers Insurance. You'd go there and you'd give them your Photo Booth Association membership number, and you'd be able to buy $1 million liability for $99.
Okay. How much is it to join the Photo Booth Association?
You can join for $199 for the full membership, which gets you all the benefits we provide. You can join as an insurance-only member for $99. If you're going to be at the Marquee Show coming up in a couple of weeks, you can join as a full member for $99 instead of $199.
Wow, that's great. So that's a really good deal.
It's a great deal. Plus, when you do that, you get access to mentoring. You can call me and I will walk you through a business plan. I'll walk you through all the things we've talked about and how to grow your business.
Do you have a sample business plan like template that people can kind of go off of and,
Kind of, but most times I would say no, because they don't, when you give people a sample, I'd rather they call me and talk to me, because they will think that just what's in the sample is all that needs to be there.
Okay.
I don't know their business, so I don't have all of the things that they would need for their business, the way they choose to run and operate.
Wow. That's great. So not only are they getting, all the benefits of that, but they're getting the benefits of actually.
Exactly.
That's cool.
They can tap my knowledge. Well, man, we've been going for almost an hour and 40 minutes. I guess I should sign off here.
You've been going for an hour and 10 minutes, and we love every second of it. Although the beginning, I'll tell you what, the beginning, we had some problems with audio. It's not your fault, but I'm glad it worked. And I'm going to make sure that we, as always, promote this. We're going to put this on back on the
Thank
Facebook
you.
groups. I'm going to put this on the website. Make sure we've got a something on Flood with Magazine for you. We'll start directing some people to get some
You bet.
free insurance. Yeah,
Awesome.
Hugo, I'm honored to have you on the show. I know we've crossed paths a few times and we've waved, but it's good to chat. And I'll see you at the next.
Honored.
You're gonna be.
Of course. We'll be in Las Vegas for the Photo Booth Expo, also for Wedding MBA in November or October.
Oh, okay.
We'll definitely be there.
That's awesome.
All righty, guys.
Thank you, Hugo. Really appreciate you, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You bet, Dave Art. It's been great to be with you.
You too.